Hello friends, welcome back to another Value Vintage Cards video. This is going to be my second ever SGC Reveal, and that's because it is my second ever SGC submission. I am not a heavy submission person for grading. I keep a lot of my cards raw, but there is definitely that threshold where you say that card is too unique, too maybe valuable. I think that's another threshold you get across, where you say it's probably a good idea to have that thing slabbed up. So this submission, my first one ever was Strongsville, and I did a video for that reveal as well. This one is cards actually sent with to submit at the National, even though I didn't attend. So my good friend Joe was able to attend the National, so fortunate for him. And he was kind enough to take with 20 cards to be submitted. So this is the results. I will say I have seen that the grades, I don't know how anybody is strong enough to not, when they send you the message and say, here's your grade. It was a not super fast process, really. I was hoping for, that kind of like week and a half to 2 weeks, and it was more than that. So the anxiousness that was being felt was very real. So as soon as I saw the grades, I definitely checked. I will say there was 2 or 3 that were shocking to the, downside, and there was 2 or 3 that were definitely shocking to the good. So I feel like that seems to be about how it goes when you submit 20 cards. You get a bunch that are about what you thought, and a few yays and a few darns. But the overall score, and I'm usually not one to obsess on, what the grade is. Very few do I expect to be higher grade. So the overall, I think there was 37 points earned, if you will. So 37 out of 20. So my average score on a grade was 1.85. So you're not going to see a lot of 9s and 10s in this thing, but you're not going to see a lot of, modern or anything like that either. So box is opened. I've already cracked into this thing. I took them out. I have not looked in person, but like I said, I do know the grades. So let's start running through. That's 2 minutes of me explaining what this is. So the very first one I'm grabbing here on the bottom of the stack is actually my highest grade. When I submitted that, I was not sure what I was going to get. These bazooka hand cuts, I kind of assume I'll just get an authentic. There's no border on this thing, so I wasn't sure I was going to get a decent grade. It looks awesome, but when they came back with a 7, again, I don't submit them for the grade, but I'll take a 7. That's pretty strong. So 63 Bazooka Musial. Next up, and one of the reasons I did the submission too was for these are a little bit older eBay purchases. You'll see this. I think it's a nice looking 3. So Wilt rookie in action. But here's an interesting thing. I'm going to keep that one there for a quick second. I had 2 of them. And with my recent move to, I don't need duplicates, I decide I'm going to move on from one of these. So I figure if I'm going to move on, rather than saying I have 2 raw ones, I think this looks nicer, it's a whole lot easier to make a trade with a dealer or, at a show, or sell it to another collector or something. If I have a actual graded copy. The other thing interesting, look how different those 2 look. At Strongsville, I took those with, and I talked to Orlando, and I talked to B. Roth, and I talked to a few other people, and everyone seemed to agree these are probably, both legit. It's just, look at that range. When you see them side by side and you look at it, you're like, hold on. We have like a light green, we've got this like dark, more intense green. I mean, if that was jersey uniforms, I would say, return one. They don't match. What's going on? So it is weird to see them side by side with such a variance. But yeah, happy with those grades. That's kind of what I might have thought and hoped for. Next one is also a duplicate, so I may move on. I have to see what my other ones are graded. But I have a few copies of this, but that's a nice looking dead kit. Any of these black border cards, 71 Topps baseball, 62 Topps football, actually 62 period, really, because the Topps baseball, even though it's not black, is rough too, but that's a good looking copy. So that was raw and pretty well preserved, so 4.5 is good news there. I will take that. Next one, I will say I was slightly surprised to the good. It's another duplicate, so one of them will be moving on. This thing's 2.5 is, the more I look at it, good. I think that, centering's okay. I'm not a centering person, but 57s are notoriously tough. It's definitely not like centered, but it's decent. Back is nice and clean. You can tell it's got that one big crease in the upper corner. But other than that, it presents well. So I don't know. The crease sort of bothers me, but a 2.5 seems like a really fair grade for that. So I'm okay there. Next one, probably fair. That one got a 1. So this thing getting a 1, you get in close, there's definitely creasing. But I will say at a distance, between centering, color, no drama on the back. The back's nice and clean and easy. I think that's a nice 1. Of all the things you can do with a 1, that's a high 1. So I do have 2 of those. So I'll need to take a look and see. I think the other one's a very fair 2 that I have. So I'm really on the fence on that. This other one was a duplicate. Another one that's tough on the centering. I say it was a duplicate because I had one that was graded a 1 that was a really nice 1, and I've already moved on from that. So this one got a 2. I'm pretty happy with that. It's another one that I was pretty satisfied with that. So I'll probably be keeping this one. I think that's, for the way I collect, a nice solid 2. Centering's okay. Again, I'm not a centering person, but these can be so off-cut that sometimes it can look a little bit distracting, and that's probably the line of where I say, like, okay, I'm gonna let Bob be the first one I put on a stand. So if that gives you an idea of what I'm taking a look at, all these other ones were slacker cards. They're not quite stand worthy in my eyes. The next one I'm sneaking a peek at is one that is on the disappointing list, although I think it's because there's not enough analysis as to why the grade comes through. This I expected to be rough. I was thinking that was like 1.5. Let's see where it lands. It's fuzzy. It's got some creasing. Not the best looking copy ever, but it's a 54 Bowman Mantle. I'm not going to be picky. I will take that. Getting it back and seeing this for a grade. So I have 2 really big cards like this. The other one's a Cracker Jack branch Ricky. Authentic, minimum size, not met. Doesn't say trimmed. I doubt it's trimmed. I think it would look better if it was trimmed, would be my hope. I mean, the corners are all a little soft. And sometimes it's just, quality control when they're making the card. Maybe it truly was just not cut properly. So, bummer. I feel like the minute you see authentic, people are going to, do minus huge, emotional points and love the card less and whatever else. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that just becomes my forever 54 Bowman. It doesn't bother me as much, especially when I don't necessarily feel that's an intentional, alteration. It just simply is authentic. Maybe somehow it is slightly off. Holding it when it was raw next to other 54 Bowmans or any other cards of that era, it did not feel like it was a different size. It's not like it's, significantly off. So I don't know. I'll probably just keep that forever. Next one is Brutal. That's a 59 Topps Musial. And ordinarily, I would not submit that, except it is a Venezuelan. So being that it's Venezuelan, getting a 1 on a 59 is completely fine and acceptable. And again, sometimes I'll grade these Venezuelans because I want to make sure if anything were to happen where somebody was selling my cards that wasn't me, which would probably never be me, that they wouldn't accidentally grab this and just say 59 Topps Musial. So toss it in a slab, protect it. 59 Topps is very, very tough with the Venezuelan series. So happy to have that thing slabbed up, and that was a very clear gonna get a 1 kind of card. Next one's a little bit of a newer pickup for me. Another Facebook deal, much appreciated. So landed the Retorado Spahn. Saw my buddy Josh doing a video, and he's like, sorry if I pronounce this Retorado crazy. It's the Midwestern accent. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to blame the same possible bad pronunciation on Midwestern accent. So 67 gets a solid 1. The front looks pretty much great. The back is where these always seem to have damage. So, but actually, of all the ways you're going to damage this, card number you can't see as much, but you can definitely still read it. So happy with that. Next up, I will say, is one that I was a little disappointed. I guess I can see why, but there is a fair amount of creasing on this thing. I almost feel like it's more creased than I remember. I know folks have reported that in the past, that like things get ding damaged in the process. Maybe it's the way it just kind of gets hidden, but that thing got a 1. I don't know that I necessarily overpaid for that when I bought it. Maybe I paid high 1, and it's a good looking 1. With these, again, it's kind of like the Ditka rookie. You get these black borders. This one's got some creasing to it, but the black around it looks pretty good. The image is still really, really good for what this is. So I will take that. The back is pretty much clean too. It's a little like aged and dirty for sure, but I think I like these Drakes a lot. I've got 3 now from that set, and they're all kind of big hitters that are people I collect, so happy with that. Next one, we're going to stay Drakes. Also nice clean edging. This one I was kind of hopeful for. I was thinking this thing could, escape the world of 1s, and it did. So it got a nice strong 4. So I was happy with that. You can't tell if this could have came back authentic, minimum size not met. So, back's clean. These are just so tough. So getting the edges that are looking pretty sharp on a 50 Drakes is definitely good. I'm going to toss that one up there. I'm going to say that's a fun one. And in a 4, that is worth a little bit of something. Using my stands poorly. I know I've got some good ones coming. Next up is a set I have 3 of from the set, which is tough. 1916 to 1920 strip cards. If you're not familiar with that set, this one is not adding to my point total. It's not that they're authentic. But I did show this one. That was actually from a local card shop. Walter Johnson / Walter Johnston. That is Walter Johnson, though. So, and strip card. Back, cut, rough, whatever. Happy just to have that thing protected. So I'm going to just boot Mickey. Sorry, bud. You're authentic. We'll replace you with another authentic. Oh, man. All right, more people are getting the boot. All right, next up, super scarce. These are looking at a population of like 5 to 10 graded. There was an auction that went off. I know a couple other people got some from these. These were on eBay months ago now. But what a neat set. Cool images. I mean, these are crushed. These are like stapled, pinned, whatever. There's actually quite a few of these in good shape, but this is a Canadian set. So hold that back so you can see what it is. William Patterson. I want to say most of these have like between 5 and 8 graded. So it's very, very low population. That counts these being submitted. That added to the population. So these are not easy to find. Blank back. Again, Sisler collector. I was actually holding off on finishing off my Sisler videos until I got this back because I wanted to make sure this was included and documented. But super cool set. When I saw these coming up, I'm like, when you're a player collector and you get a chance to get something that has like of 8, there's been a couple Sislers I've passed on that I, feel bad because I know I'm not going to see it again for 3 to 5 years if I'm lucky. So being able to add that was really, really good for me in terms of just feeling like I'm getting my Sisler collection going here. The other player I collect, I was going through that, I was kind of like, well, who's my top 10 players that I collect? This guy's in that list for sure. So, same set. Snagged the Hornsby too. So, Sisler was not super pricey. Hornsby, even like this, kind of is. Both of them are like 1916, 1917 era rookie cards. So, 22 is pretty early in, and again, being like pop, 5 to 8 to 10. Maybe Ty Cobb in that set has 15 or 20, I'm not sure, but like nobody has 100 of these out there, which leads me to believe, unless there's some kind of like Canadian black swamp find or something where they find dozens of these in someone's attic, I don't think we're going to say there's ever going to be more than 20 or 25 of any of these. So really, really neat to have 2 of those in the collection. That's probably, of course I'd rather have maybe some bigger dollar guys, but in terms of like who they are, those would be the 2 I'd pick out of that set. Those are 2 of the players I collect pretty hard. So really happy to have those. They look great in the slabs. Tucks it up. Those are good. All right, next up is a Strongsville snag. So I have shown this as a card I've picked up, but how great is that? And it was rough. I knew that was going to get a 1. No shock there. This was just really, I think I know at 5 from the Wilson Frank set. So, and when you say which 5, it's those 5. It's probably the 5 you want. So this was the only one that was not protected. So I thought, yeah, might as well. Let's keep that set looking good. Back has a little bit of damage, but again, the price point on this at Strongsville was so good. There was no chance I wouldn't have bought it for that. So really happy to have that in the collection. That is a great looking card. In fact, it's so great. I'm sorry, Bob. you got the boot. I actually like that better than the Gibson. I like it better, not because it's necessarily more valuable. I don't know which one's more valuable. That's probably a close race. I like it because it is so unique, and it's super cool looking. Not that the other one wasn't, but good lord. Dang, someone else is getting the boot. This was one from my personal collection that will stay in my personal collection, but I will absolutely, again, this was bought on eBay, pre anything. I mean, really, I'd say most of the cards weren't graded at that point. eBay was young. Some were graded, some weren't, but I'd say a good portion of the cards that were sold on eBay were not graded. So, I didn't think it was not real, but I figure it was worth sending in just to verify. And then I will show you what's on the back, which is why I was not expecting anything other than the worst possible scenario for grading. Really, I just wanted them to say, yes, it's real. So I got the exact expected 1. But again, I got a Leaf Ruth. I'm good with a 1. So as much as it hurts me to say bye-bye Stan, bye-bye Stan. All right. Oh, man. 3 more coming. Well, I'm going to just tell Roy I'm down a seat. Now, what's funny is Ruth is not one that I collect real hard because I can't. I don't have the budget. Everyone else is in the top few people that I collect. They're like top teners for my collecting style. So Sisler's, my 1. I already took Stan down. Stan's 2. Hornsby's up there. Bear is probably 3 or 4. Walter Johnson's definitely a top tenor, but I gotta figure out who to give the boot to. I guess this is too modern, post-war. What am I doing? I'll leave Ruth up there, I guess. And I guess I'll take this guy down. So that tells you the next 3 are going to be, they're good. Next one has some damage to it. I was honestly almost hoping it would score a little better, and I don't think it could. I think there's like the technicals where it's just going to get exactly the score that it does. But I've had that thing raw, same, just like Ruth. It was probably a couple $100 a couple decades ago on eBay. So I was really happy that I've had this forever. There is paper loss and there's some creasing, but that thing at any kind of distance, of course it gets its 1, but at any kind of distance, I mean, the centering, the colors, the image, I mean, all of it's, you want a definition of what a value vintage card looks like. For my collection, this thing is perfection. I feel like the front looks like it's got qualities of a 5 with creasing that's harder to see from a distance and some paper loss that is in non-offensive areas. So instead of being enormous money, it's quote unquote reasonable. I tried to get that thing through at the $15 pricing for grading, and they had to call and say sorry. Even in like authentic, we're gonna ding you. So I had to pay the little upcharge for that. So oh well. 2 more. One is from a set that I have exactly 1 of now. So I was really happy to come across this thing. Like I said, Walter Johnson, somebody I collect. This one actually says Johnson, so that's exciting. So it's supposed to have a little more of a border to it, which is why this thing's going to get a minimum size not met authentic. But you're looking at a 1911 baseball bat series. Walter Johnson. Cool image, neat card. Actually, I mean, for having the border not there, I don't think most people see enough of these to realize the border's not there, probably. I know I don't. So it is not offensive to me to look at. It looks a little bit tiny, but it's from an era where things that are hand cut like that and kind of unique sized, I'm okay with that being exactly how it is. So that's a cool one. Backs are blank. I forget to show backs sometimes with these strip cards because they're boring, but that's okay. And last one, I will say grade wise, I was hopeful for slightly higher. I was also fearful for way lower. So coming back where it did, I'm mostly good. It's another of the people I collect. 1921, Rogers Hornsby, the Oxford Confectionery Series. I think that's one of the nicer images. Walter Johnson looks really cool in that one too. That's still on the list, but great looking image. That came back as a 3. So overall, I'm happy with that. Take a look at it. There's not, the corners are decent. I measured this before I sent it in because I had 30 days to return it, and I wasn't sure how fast grading was going to come back. So I was a little fearful that this could be nice looking because it was slightly trimmed, but it is not. That 3 is solid and strong. The back seems pretty darn good. So I like these a lot. I thought that was one that buying that raw for what it was not risk-free. So that's one that I felt because of the price point. Definitely want to get that thing sent in and have a chance to get some professional verification on that. So glad it came back, confirmed exactly what I was hoping for. So yeah, pretty gosh darn happy with that submission. I would say this will probably end up being the biggest SGC submission in terms of dollar value ever for me. This is going to be the biggest. Most of the time when I'm buying these kind of big cards at this point, I'm probably going to be buying them in a graded form. And when not, it's going to be hard to get this many hitters together. The Walter, the Hornsby, even the Barra, the other Walter. You got a Gibson rookie tossed in there. You got several Mantles. You got the Ruth, the Jackie, the Patterson set. I mean, all these things are just amazing. So I'm going to have to put in some minutes here to redistribute where they go. I kind of keep my cards sorted with, the big boxes, and then everything else is kind of by player. But these are a lot of big box cards. So I'll have to do some maneuvering. So thank you all for watching. This was long for me with 20 cards and wanting to kind of have a little bit of a slight reaction, feedback, input, thought process, maybe origin of where the card came from. I didn't want to rush through and not give each card their own kind of fair due. So hopefully that was fun. I feel like people enjoy seeing these kind of reveals and just seeing what all is sent in. So that was a good one. That was a big one for me. So wishing everyone a very, very good day. I'm going to get to work to get these put back in, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of these back as I do some player runs and some other things. So have a good one. I will talk to you all again soon. Thanks.